Hello, everybody. I'm George Williams from the Northeast Kansas Library System in Lawrence, Kansas.
I'm Christopher Brannon from the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And as always, we're part of the Education Committee of koha-US. And so if you go to the koha-US website and go over here to the Learn page and go down to the video playlist link on the drop-down, you'll be able to find all of koha-US's videos here, including ours. And we've got links out to Monday Minutes and Deep Dive, and there's other things that'll be added to this probably fairly soon. And today we're going to talk about a development that Christopher did using jQuery and the REST API to print a patron registration form, which looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of a backstory here real quick. So we've been using patron self-registration for quite a while, but before we did that, we made sure some things were in place so that we didn't have to deal with retaining applications. Before we got into Koha and self-registration, our library was holding on to applications that were signed, and we got to the point with our legal department in the city with an understanding that, you know, they don't have an account unless there was a signed application. So it was assumed that an adult signed an application at some point in order for the account to exist. So we were able to do away with our applications. Well, things have changed over the years, and
there was some kind of a mix-up. People went crazy.
Yes. They decided, oh, we need to hold on to those applications. So this kind of put a chink in how we do our self-registration patrons, and what it led our library to decide to do was, oh, well, we'll just have those patrons that are coming in for the card, we're going to have them fill out the application physically there while they're picking up their card. So basically,
so they're gonna register online and then come in and fill out the exact same information again on a piece of paper. That's crazy.
So, yes, yes. And so, you know, I went to the appropriate people and said, hey, I got an idea. I put together this thing on our test server, and basically what we've done is I've hijacked the print summary option in a patron account and turned it into a self-registration confirmation slip. And what it'll do is it'll print out everything that they filled out, and then I have it set up so it'll add some additional information and a signature line at the bottom, so we can print that right out if they're a self-registered patron, and they can look it over, make sure that everything that they gave us is correct, and answer a few additional questions and read the statement and sign it, and we can slip that slip in with all of our other applications. We don't have to trouble the patron of having them fill out all that information.
They don't have to redo everything by hand.
Right.
That seems reasonable.
So let's get into it. All right. So I'm on my test server, and the first thing that I'm going to stick in here now, there's quite a bit to this, but most of it is just basically the structure of what I'm throwing in the print page. So, but there's three general parts to this code. Okay. Here's the first part. Okay, so I throw in here an if statement that is looking at, first of all, the patron category on the page. So when I have a page that has a patron on it, our particular self-registration code is the word self in all caps. So what we're doing is we're looking at this over here to see what patron category that they're in. And if they're in this self category here, it is going to hijack the print summary up in the menu and relabel it as registration confirmation. So we're changing this button here. That let me refresh here. So this is the way it normally looks. It says print summary up here. Okay, so now I'll put in my code, save that. And so the first thing it's doing is it is relabeling this. So I've got this
confirmation. Okay.
Yes. So I've got this patron. If I go into another patron, yeah, I know I have goofy names here. If I go into another patron, it's not in that category. It's just going to say print summary, and print summary works as usual.
Okay.
So the next part of this is going to be where I grab all the information I need for confirmation on that patron. So the next section down, this is going to do this. The remaining of this jQuery is going to work if the Pat Moore member dash print screen is showing. So only if that print screen is coming up. So
okay.
None of this is going to happen while this page is showing. The only time it's going to happen is when you go into
this page is
dialog. This page up behind here is actually up. So this is the page we're referencing behind here.
Okay.
And there's a way to, it took me a while to figure out how to get to that screen and figure out the page name on that, because if I close that print dialog,
right.
You know, that page goes away. And I think I had to make, if you make a modification to, I'll show you how I got there. It had to do with jQuery. And I had to make a modification to this here, the Internet Slip Printer JS. If you put, I don't know, if you put just this.
So if you break that, you can break the.
If it sees that there's some modification here, then it's not going to go through the normal channels of thing.
It doesn't put that print pop-up modal.
Right. So now if I go in here, let me refresh the screen. So that pop-up doesn't come up. I just get that page because it doesn't know what to do at this point, because I've overridden the internal commands for printing. So I was able to stick something in that Internet Slip Printer JS and get this page without the dialog, and I was able to then inspect the page and find out, oh, this is Pat _ more member dash print.
Right. So the only thing you're using that Internet Slip JS for is to discover the HTML that you need for the.
Correct. I just needed to get this piece of information because I only want my modifications to occur to this page at this point.
Right.
Okay. So
I just want to make sure people that are watching aren't confused there and think that they have to do this to make this work at all.
Right. This was only for testing only. You don't have to do this if you're, you know, if you're just going off the code that we supply in the library, because we already have the information that that we need to do all the work. But you know, if you ever need to look at that page and inspect that page, this is how you would do it.
I bet that'll work on a lot of other pages too.
I'm going to leave this in here for now, just because. Well, actually, no. You know, we can see the slip and we can see the stuff, the page behind it. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. So now,
well, one trick I know is that once you have that URL, if you open a new tab and put that URL into a window, it won't clear when you close the print dialog.
oh,
Generally.
interesting. Okay.
So once you have the URL, you can mess with the URL all you want.
Oh, nice.
I do that a lot for testing when I'm testing notices. If you can get the URL for the notice and then just plug the URL straight into a new tab, then you can reload that tab over and over again without having to mess with the dialog.
Very handy.
Yeah.
Good to know. Okay. All right. So going back to this, so I'm getting this screaming because this basically is not finished yet. I'm still in the middle of an if statement that is not complete.
Right.
So like I said, everything from this point on is going to only happen if you're on that particular page. So this is determining that you're on that page. And then the first section that's happening here in this if statement is it's gathering information. And I'm gathering information about the patron, all the pieces that I want the patron to confirm. I'm doing this via REST API. Now and we talked about this earlier, I could have done this using a method that you actually demonstrated at one of our past conferences about how to grab information through a report.
Right.
And I try to stay away from reports for various reasons. One, when you're running a report, you're using some resources, and reports have always been something I've been a little skittish of. I write reports back and forth all the time, no problem. But reports can have a tendency of dragging the system down, or if it goes awry, or you're grabbing too much information, or grabbing just a ton of information. Not doing that here, but I just like to stay away from reports in general if I don't have to. Plus, if I'm using a report, if I use a report, I have to maintain that report. And so I'm relying on some code that's somewhere else. Here, this way, everything that I need is right here, and I'm not having to go somewhere else and make sure that piece is still intact or not changed by anybody else. And we have other people that can modify reports. And so just a little bit more secure for me in how it functions by just using the REST API.
I would be worried about that using a report myself if I was in a situation where other people had the ability to modify reports. Here in our situation, only the Northeast Kansas Library System staff have the ability to create or edit or delete reports. So in other situations, if anybody can go in and break a report, then it's a lot riskier to rely on that. So
I like to use the report too, because I can
you mean the REST API?
The REST API, I like to use the REST API for simplification. And, overall, the structure of how you're using REST API is not too far different from how you use the code to get something from a report within here. So you're not saving a lot of time or lines of code in this method. But this is just a more direct way of getting information. The only time that I would stray away from this and go back to reports is if I'm trying to get information that I can't get through REST API. REST API does not attach to everything. It only attaches to certain tables at this point. So if there was a table, if there was some information somewhere else that I cannot get from this, or if I needed a report to grab some information based on some logic that the REST API doesn't. The REST API is just getting straight information out of a table. A report, you can incorporate logic. So if you're trying to get certain things that match criteria,
right,
a report might be a better way to go. But I will I try to default to the REST API when I can, because I need just to remember how to do it, because if you don't use it that much, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to go look at my old notes. I have to remember how I did this, how it worked and everything. So I just like to stay up to date with how the REST API works. So
That makes sense.
you're defining some variables, and then you I have you're gathering some page information. So you're grabbing some information from this page about the first of all, I'm grabbing URL parameters here. First line is grabbing this entire line, and then this variable is grabbing the borrower number from there. I think I could have grabbed that information elsewhere. I could have grabbed it from here if I wanted to, but this is a more solid place to grab it, in my opinion. I think that's why I did that. I'm not exactly sure, but there were reasons why I gravitated towards grabbing it from that URL line rather than somewhere on the page that may or may not be showing. So that was just more dependable. In my opinion.
It seems like a really efficient way to get the borrower number, honestly.
So grab the borrower number. Now it's time to grab the patron data. So I'm using this variable to go to this path, and using the ID of the borrower number, and I'm letting the patron info array be populated. So it's using Ajax and grabbing. I don't understand all of this stuff, how all of this works, and I don't expect anybody else to. But here is where I'm defining what information it's supposed to grab. So in this array, this is array section 0, and then section 1 and 2 and so forth. So that's important to note the position, and it starts with 0, the index 0 rather than 1. So you're starting with 0 in your indexing. So this just grabs all of that patron information. And then we put in the next section, which is the last part of this if statement for this print page. So remember, we're still in this if statement up here if we're on that page. And here's where we reconfirm, and instead of confirming with the same self category on that page, instead of referring to this again, this time
you're grabbing it right out of the data you got from that you put in that array.
Exactly. So this is kind of a good double check to make sure that they're in that category. And if they're in that self-registration category, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to empty out the original print contents. So everything that was
the print summary page, right?
Everything that's on this page, I'm just wiping out. Some of the stuff I do use in my slip, but I thought about just inserting things and rearranging what's there and adding the pieces that are missing there. But it would have been a lot more coding and a lot more trouble than it was worth. So I just decided to wipe that information completely out and start fresh. So I emptied the contents of that page, and then I start appending to that page. Now I could have done this with one append, but I chose to do it in several appends so that I could break up my lines. I couldn't break up my lines within the append because it would break the jQuery.
Right. So this actually makes perfect sense to me. It's a lot easier to read that code and then to edit that code if you're doing it, because otherwise it would just have to be one continuous line of code.
Yeah, basically like what I'm doing here in this particular section is all one line right here, and then this one is all one line right here, and that would have just been one big blob. And I want to make it a little bit easier to work with. So I've got my heading and then my line for the name. And as I said, we start off with an index of 0, and the first name was 0 and the surname was 1. So here's first name and then the last name, the surname.
Right.
So added that information there, put my line breaks in there, and I maintained a structure with list items. It's how things were on the page before. I'm not showing the bullets on here. I'm hiding the bullets in here, but I just decided to, and you don't have to do this. I just decided to put everything in list items for a little bit of structure to it.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to do it. I just chose to model it off of what was already there. So,
and it's probably designed to look a little bit like the piece of paper that people have to fill out anyway, right?
No, not in this case.
Not at all?
No, because we're printing to a slip actually, rather than a half sheet of paper, which is our actual applications. I was not going to try and to model it after the actual page. Our circ desks default to our receipt printers, and I did not want to have staff try and do the hassle of switching over to another printer.
Okay.
And I know that there's ways to incorporate in the CSS to format to the particular page, but I don't want them having to fuss with
a printer switch. Yeah.
Right. And we have a silent print turned on there anyways, so they can't easily switch over to another printer anyways. So
that makes sense to me then.
So I'm just doing it on a slip, and I'm just providing the basic information. So I'm including all the information, and I've included some gaps between the lines so that they have room to write in corrections if some information is incorrect. So I've left a blank line in between. It's spacing that out. Address information, all the information that they basically can provide during self-registration is going to be here. After that, I'm gathering a little bit of extra information that's not included in the online registration. Things like let's see here. We ask on our application, if they're under 18, who their parent or guardian is, and the relationship, and a contact preference. I think we might include, I can't remember if we're including birth date. If we're not gathering that on the registration, then I'm asking for that information here as well. So yeah, it looks like I've got a section here for the birth date to fill out here.
Right.
And so, little pieces of information. Do you want to receive the monthly e-newsletter? And then they can circle yes or no. Then I have another section. Here's where it has, statement of responsibility, what they're legally bound to, and a signature line. So here's where they would sign the confirmation. And this is the exact same statement that we put on the bottom of our application. So this section right here is basically what I'm putting on the slip.
Right. So the first part says, is this a self-registered patron? The second part says, if it is, this is what we're going to change, and this
is what we're gathering. Yeah.
And then this last part is, this is what we're putting onto the piece of paper.
Correct.
Cool.
So I'll save that. I'm going to go back here, and I don't even need to refresh because it's loading the new screen.
Right.
So registration confirmation, and this is the new information. This is the new slip. So here's all the information that they fill out. Again, I leave blank line underneath so that they can write in a correction if they need to.
It's also just easier to read, honestly.
Yeah.
If it isn't all like single spaced is a pain to read. So.
And then my additional information I've surrounded with a border. I've
Right.
put a heading on there as additional information. So here's the birth date that they're filling out, the parent or guardian name if they're under 18, the relationship, contact preference, the circle all that apply, and you want to receive the newsletter, and then our statement and a signature line. So that is pretty much it. So there you have it, a nice confirmation slip for your self-registered patrons. And again, if you're a normal patron that is not self-registered or past that part, you will not see that on their page. You will still have access to
You'll just see the summary,
the print summary, which is handy. So I've hijacked it for a certain patron category only, and very useful for our staff, and it's convenient for our patrons, so they don't have to fill out the same information twice.
right? It
And the
probably
question
makes your patrons a lot happier.
Yeah. And we're holding on to our applications for 2 years, and the question came up, well, we've seen receipts that darken or black out after time, but my thought is, you keep these receipts in a folder in the dark, and as long as you're not in a heated area, those are thermal slips.
Right.
You shouldn't have a problem with retaining that information on a receipt paper. So
right, unless you're putting it like on the dashboard of your car on a hot sunny day, it should stay good in a file cabinet.
And if you are doing things like that, then I guess your record keeping skills should be questioned. So
yeah, I don't think there are a lot of libraries that store their paperwork in glass file cabinets next to the window.
Yeah.
At least I really hope there aren't.
I hope not. Anyways, that's it for this week, and yeah.
Next time we'll be back with an update to the circulation rules modifications that I've shown people in the past. So
cross fingers.
Yeah, I think we're good on that. I think I'm gonna do the write-up on it this weekend, so I'll be ready to present it next time.
As always, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We present our videos on our website, but all of our videos are on the YouTube channel. We encourage you to subscribe, to like, to comment on our videos. We do like to respond to your videos, and so please give us a shout out, and let's see how many likes we can get on these videos this week.
All right.
All right. Until
See you
next
time.